Okay, I think I've got that fixed. Hi, Christina. Can you hear me? It's Lon.
Yeah, I can hear.
Great. Okay, good. So I fixed that. We have a little problem this morning. I tech support is not here, even though they've been summoned. So I'm okay. I think I've got this straightened out, but there might be some hiccups. And until tech support comes, there is nothing I can do. A ticket has been put in, so there must be some sort of emergency. They're usually pretty good. Great. So let's just see and make sure. And Adjoy's with us online. Good. And then who else is there in the online? Is that Nathan? Let's see. I can't. Let's just do a quick audio check and make sure. Who is that? Hi, Nathan. It's Lon Appleby in the global class at the podium. Can you just make sure we can hear you? I'm doing an audio check. So jump on your microphone and say hello or say hello in the live chat.
The live chat.
Gr-
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay.
I can hear
Okay.
you.
Great. Okay. Excellent. Good. So that's working. So I think we can get going very shortly. I know Dami was here. He's just stepped out for a moment. Anna, our guest, is on her way, but let me just get things organized a little bit and then we can get started. And I'm going to, okay, good job. Good. Okay, so let me just check and everything's okay on YouTube. So let me just double check and make sure everything's looking good there. Nice. Okay. And great. Yep, we're just going to start in 1 minute. And I'm just going to check over here. There's a little issue there, but I think I can fix that. What will happen if I do rack PC number 2? Will it come up? No. So we have a monitor down there, and we have tech support that has not arrived. So we will just have to make do with what we have. And let's see, does that come up over there? Okay, so that monitor is down, but otherwise we're good. We have, yeah, nice. And let me just see there. Good. Okay, everyone, welcome to our Wednesday Global Leader class from the Rotary Global Classroom at Durham College in Oshawa, Canada. And I'm Professor Lon Appleby, your instructor as always in this class. And I'm waiting for others to arrive. I think something is happening on campus this morning. As well, our guest is a little bit delayed. She has been sending me some texts, so I will get to that in a moment. But that's okay because we have a lot to set up this morning. And the content for today's class is going to be very rich. And so I can speak to you directly like this. And I just want to make sure that everything is working technically. So let's just go through right now the students who are joining us synchronously online. And I would just like all of you to identify yourselves briefly on your microphones if you can and tell us where you are. Okay, so let's start first with Ajoy. Hi, Ajoy. Where are you right now?
Hi, Professor. Good morning. This is Ajoy. I'm calling from Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Great.
It's
And what time is it
it's
there right now?
it's evening 8:20 p.m.
8:20 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Good, Ajoy. Glad
It's
you could
evening.
join us. So let's go down the um, uh, online icons, the cosmos, all the planets that are with us right now. So underneath Ajoy, who is that right now? Who's joining us? I'm just looking over here. I can't see. Could you identify yourself? Okay. Underneath that, let's see who's there. Okay, so there's Christina. And Christina, can we just connect with you briefly to make sure everything is working properly? Can you just say hello and tell us where you are right now? Go ahead.
Hi, I'm at home right now.
Okay, and where is that exactly?
In Pickering.
In Pickering. Okay, so that's
Yeah,
here. Come on
yeah.
in. Excellent. And Nathan, do you want to just jump on your mic for a sec, say hello, and identify yourself for the others, and tell us where you're from? Go ahead.
Morning, sir. I'm from Oshawa.
You're from Oshawa. Great. And it's Nathan. Good.
So my name is Nissan, sir, not Nathan. Nissan.
Is Ethan?
Nissan. Nissan. Nissan.
Okay. Oh, Nishan. Oh, Nishan. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm just looking at the
No worries.
icons here, and it's a little. Thanks, Nishan, for the correction. Great. So Christina. So Ajoy's with us. Christina, Nishan. Uh, hi, Gurjot. Want to?
Hi, Professor. Good morning.
Good morning. Where are you right now?
I am in Kingston.
You're in Kingston. Good. Okay. So everyone's in Ontario, but not far. Ajoy, of course, is far away in Bangladesh and Dhaka. And in a moment, I'll put the world map up so we can orient ourselves. Then Naspreet, is it? Hi, Naspreet.
Sir, it's not Navpreet. It's not it's Navpreet.
It's Navpreet. Hi, Navpreet. And where are you from exactly?
I'm from India.
And where are you right now?
Right now, I'm living in Brampton.
You're in where?
Brampton.
Okay,
Yeah,
great. Yeah, thank you, Navpreet.
yeah.
Excellent. And I see Carrie Ann has also joined us online. Hi, Carrie Ann. How are you today? Okay, so Carrie Ann, just make sure that you identify yourself at some point. Just jump on your microphone
I am
or
here. I'm on campus.
great. Okay, or you can go in the live chat as well. And then finally, I see for the moment that is who's the final student? Is it Surjesh? Sur, I can't see exactly here, but that's okay. So we can we can get started. And I see one other student has come in person, and there's also Dami who will be coming shortly, and Anna, the guest from Global Guardian, is on her way. So let me first remind all of you of why we're here in the Global Leader class each Wednesday, because we're trying to understand essentially how we can first think in a much more planet wide way. And that's the global part, because we live in a planetary age now where increasingly everyone around the world has to think in that way. Come on, and I'm just talking to the online students, and it's Josh. Joshua, come on, grab a seat, and there's a microphone here. And for the leader part, yeah, you can turn it on one more. For the leader part of the class, as you know, this is a class where we are exploring how exactly we can be taking action in our lives around the world, how we can um, take on new skills that can help us to be a lot more proactive and lead and move forwards and get out in front, not follow, not be obedient, if you will, but to actually use our best critical intelligence and our creative thinking to be able to start our own projects, start our own organizations, our own initiatives, and learn as well from the guests that we have who've taken positions of leadership. Come on in, Juanita. Juanita's coming in right now. So today's topic, I need to warn you, is going to be pretty difficult to talk about. So I want to get you ready for this, all of you. And we're going to be talking about war and conflict and how to deal with this kind of continuing problem in human civilization. And so I want to let all of you know, for the students who are here in person, who are coming in, Anna will be here shortly, and she's certainly going to be talking a lot about war in Ukraine. And I'll be talking about the war in the Middle East, in the Holy Land, Israel and the Palestinians, and largely Hamas, the group that apparently represents them right now. And if any of you find this subject matter difficult at times, it could get quite graphic. We're not going to pull any punches. We're going to be talking honestly, intelligently, constructively, with good research about things that are violent, things that are cruel, things that are seemingly unresolvable. And in the end, we're going to try and look at the question of what can you do about it? Because there's a reality here when it comes to dealing with the world as a whole today. There's a lot of conflict in the world. But at the same time, there's a lot of conflict in your own life too. And so I'd like to think that as we talk about this haunting, intractable, continuing force in human civilization, which is the force of war, that you will be able to understand it not only in terms of this planet and how to think about it, but also in terms of the conflicts internally in yourself, because often we're at war with ourselves too. So war is the worst type of conflict that we can face. And as it happens right now in the world, there are two serious wars unfolding. And we need to understand first a little bit about why they're happening, what that means for us, humanity, but ultimately, because this is a leadership class, leadership is about action. Leadership is about thinking and reflecting on what a problem is, and then deciding that you can do something about it, that you can be part of the solution instead of waiting for somebody else to make the decisions for you. Leadership is about concentration. Leadership is about focus. And I say this at the moment as I'm looking at a student in person whose mind is somewhere else right now. But let's just see. I'll just check for a moment and see, because I have to make sure that, good, okay. So I'm not going to be tough on this student. I don't want to be tough on anybody, but sometimes just to remind ourselves of how important it is to bring our minds into the moment that's happening right now. I need to come on in. So grab a seat here. So let me just first organize the dashboard for a moment. It'll take me a few seconds. I have everything ready. And then we're going to start. I'm going to set you up with a little bit of geography and orientation and an understanding of these two wars. And then you're going to meet a guest who's on her way, Anastasia. She'll be here around 11 to tell us about what she did as a Ukrainian Canadian when in February of 2022, Russia, a very large country, invaded a country that her family comes from. That's called Ukraine. Then I'm going to do something that's going to make all of you sit up and listen. Is that I, as a Jew, am going to talk about the war in Israel. And we're going to have a conversation about it. We're going to have an intelligent conversation, but it's not going to be easy. So I'm asking all of you today, if you are serious at all about thinking about conflict and war in the world and how to understand it, you want to get your head into this class right now, because I need all of you here to understand how we're going to deal with these problems. And as always, I look forward to your comments. So let's first get the dashboard up, and I'm going to put right over me, I will put the map of the world, and over here, I think I will put right now the go on the other side. Sorry, that. And then over here, we will start getting the notes going shortly. Okay, so good. So we're set up for this. So let's make sure we've got the microphones here. I just want to make sure I have all of you right now, because this is not going to be an easy discussion. And I love the fact that at the beginning of this semester, Dami said, I want controversial topics. Well, you cannot get any more controversial right now than the war in the Holy Land. Nor can you get more controversial over the fact that your professor is Jewish. Oh boy, what do we do now? But that doesn't matter in terms of me being here as your professor, but it does in terms of me trying to understand something about what am I supposed to be doing as a kind of global leader with this war unfolding in a place where my people live. Are they my people? They are, but we have to understand this in the context of the fact that I'm here and a war is happening over there. Just as Anastasia Pioro had to deal with this very fact in February of 2022 when she saw Ukraine suddenly invaded by a much larger country. And as a result, she and her sister and I and others here formed an organization called Global Guardian, which is to help others in need around the world. So Anna's going to tell you about how she became more of a global leader and why she did that as a result of this war. And she's going to tell you about what she decided she needed to do. And then I'm going to tell you what I need to do as a professor. Sitting in front of my students right now, after a war has broken out once again in the Holy Land, and more Jewish people in several hours, about 1,400, were basically savagely murdered by a group of men. And we need to understand what that means and what we can do about that too. So the really important thing I want to remind all of you right now that we're discussing today in terms of the force is conflict and the worst type of conflict, which is war. War is violent conflict. War is when people get killed. People get tortured. People get kidnapped. People get raped. Lives get destroyed. Millions and millions of lives. Trauma results. What are you supposed to do about this? Just watch this unfold as a kind of form of weird entertainment on your feeds, Instagram and TikTok and others, or aren't you supposed to be doing something when things get this bad? What is it that you're supposed to do? So this is what we have to really drill down on today. And first, we need to understand something about the conflicts that are taking place. So before we really get going, and I ask all of you what you think, and then I'm going to try and provide some context and insight on why we are now here in 2023 in the 21st century at a time when we feel we have made so much progress, and now we are dealing with two major wars that have broken out in Europe and in the Holy Land. This was not supposed to happen. Dami, it's important. Okay, so I'll let him go, but just be aware that two students now, one in particular, are on their phones, and I'm assuming it's important. Yeah, but I'm going to tell you something. If it's not important, then obviously I'm not sure you guys are ready to really talk about big things. Okay, so I'm not sure you're ready to really lead anything if you're so distracted by your phone that you can't be in the moment and talk about things that matter. But let me just say it while Dami's here, okay? So he has a chance to defend himself. Come over here, all right? Today's going to get a little tougher. No, go ahead. Do you have an emergency? Okay, do you have an emergency? And it's a real emergency? Okay, then my apologies, because he has an emergency and I'm going to take him at his word, and I hope that it's okay. All right, so go ahead and deal with it. Go now, okay, and we can manage the notes, okay, and be well. So things happen, and I'm going to be fully sympathetic to the idea that, thank God we have technology today that can warn us of something when we do have an emergency, and we can deal with it. Okay, so the other thing about leadership as well is we have to be constantly so flexible and adapt to situations. I've lost my great note taker. What am I supposed to do? Shut down the class? No, we just move on. We adapt. A monitor over there isn't working. Our guest is a little late. Something has happened. What am I supposed to do? You just move on and you adapt and you dance, you skate, and you always keep in mind the more important thing is we have things to talk about that are way more important than any breakdown of anything. Okay, so let's stop for a second and give you all a chance to start asking questions and connect. And then I want to do some orientation for you and look at the world map and try to understand what exactly has happened in Ukraine and Russia. Why do we have a war there? What's that? That's not working? Oh, no, that's just a sec. This is working. But oh, is there something coming up on the live chat? Oh, you could do the notes. Oh, terrific, Juanita. Yeah, go ahead and beautiful. So this is, you could take that. Yeah, that's for you, Hassan. And then, so Juanita, we've established, has already got some kind of real leader happening inside of her already, and the things that she said, and the way that she volunteers and just steps up. So this would be your mic, okay? Thank you. And also, Juanita has sat here and talked about the situation back in Nigeria, and I think in an enlightened and brave way, and she also writes really well. So I'm very glad that you can get onto the notes. So let's go say hello to Juanita. I've got the camera. There's Juanita on the notes. Okay, and you know how to move the slides, right? Great. Okay, so before we really get going in terms of some orientation on understanding why 2 wars have broken out, not just 1 now, but 2, I want to see if there are any questions. I also need to do a quick review with you because the assessment, assignments, and reflections have changed a little bit for the second half of the semester. So I want to make sure you're all clear about that and make sure Juanita gets that in the notes. So let's see if there are any questions at this point. See the microphone? You want to? Hassan? Yeah.
For assignment related question?
What's that? Hassan?
Related to assignment or something?
Yes. I want to explain how that's going to work in the second half. I've changed things a little bit. Okay.
I don't know. I think you have to tell us.
I'll tell you, and then you see. Okay. Yeah. Good.
He was talking about talking about in general, like about the wars.
Yeah, in general. Okay, but okay. So I see nothing in the live chat, and no one's jumped on their microphone. So I'm just going to keep going. And good. Okay. Could you leave that for now? Leave that as the first slide, and make a separate slide. Go to the next slide. Go to the other way and call it your marks. Yeah. I'm not going to be talking about your individual marks, but I'm going to be talking about the breakdown of how it's going to work for the second half of the semester. Okay, so here's how I'd like it to go for the second half of the semester. We're in our little review section before we get going, but we now have another 7 weeks in the second half of the semester, and we've got a number of good guests who are coming, including our president of the college and many others. But I have to make sure that you are all ready for the big assignment that's coming at the end of the semester. Okay, so let me just review for a second what's been happening. So far, you have done 2 reflections. Okay, so I want to just write that so far. Reflection 1, reflection 2, and you can just say R1, R2 for simplicity's sake. So Juanita's getting this down in the notes for everybody, okay? There was reflection 1 in the discussion board, and that was worth 12.5%. And there was reflection 2 that was worth 12.5%. That was 25% of your grade for the whole semester in the first half of the semester. So now we've got 75% coming in the second half. In other words, the second half of the semester is going to get busier in this class. Now, I'm going to explain how this is going to work in terms of that 75. But I want to remind all of you that you received a midterm grade. And that grade was simply based on that 2 reflections, 25%. And quite a few of you received 100% because you got 5 out of 5 on both reflections. And they were good. That was great. Some of you didn't. Some of you received 0 because you didn't do any of the work that was asked. But you have lots of time to make it up. So really listen close now, because for those of you who are watching the recordings too, these are your marks. This is real. Okay, so here's how we're going to do it. Okay, there will be 4 more reflections. Okay, reflection 3, reflection 4, reflection 5, and reflection 6. Okay. Reflection 6 is the big one. That is a big assignment, and that will be worth 30% of your grade this semester. Okay?
Reflection 4?
30%. You have not had any assignments yet. you've had reflections getting you ready for a big assignment. So let me just explain more how this will work. The other reflections, reflection 3, 4, and 5, are going to be worth 15% each, not 12.5. And I'm going to be raising my expectations now on these reflections as well. So I will explain how this is going to work. It's important for me to take the time to do this before we get going on wars and conflicts, because this is the most important stuff for you right now, your marks. I know that. And I want to make sure you fully understand this. So reflection 3, reflection 4, and reflection 5 are each worth 15%. And then you've got this big assignment worth 30%. And here are the deadlines. Okay, so I'm going to give them to you now, but they will be posted for you on DC Connect as well. Reflection 3 will be due November the 14th. Reflection 4 will be due November the 21st. Reflection 5 will be due December the 5th. And the assignment, December the 14th. Nope. Now, this is great, Juanita. We've got that down now. Now, let me just explain about the whole idea of reflecting. To me, the only real evidence of learning I have for all of you, particularly the ones I never have met who are all watching the recordings, is what you write in the reflections. The assignment, you will have a choice whether to write it, do a video, a presentation. That will be the only time you will have a chance to choose your medium. And there will be a very detailed assignment sheet on what I will be expecting. But that too will be a reflection as well. Whether you do it as a little documentary, a video, presentation, you are reflecting on the content of the course. Except that in the final reflection, which is your big assignment, as well as the smaller reflections leading up to that, I'm going to be asking you to now do some research. So far, in the 2 reflections that you did, there was no research. And I didn't expect that. I didn't ask for that. I wanted you to be getting into the habit of being able to think about what we cover in this class and process it and write. I wanted to be able to identify in this class who can write and who can't. Who needs help with tutors and who doesn't. If I can get on to the students who have trouble with the written word early and get them to tutors and get them working with the tutors, then they're going to do much, much better. And writing, unless you have a disability, is a critical skill in our world today. If you have a disability, I will know about it and I will help you. If you don't, then I'm afraid to break it to you. You will have to start writing better in this class. And the reason is because if you have any ambition, any desire to succeed in the world today, you need to be able to write well. You need to be able to express yourself well. And again, I caution or preface this by saying, I know some students have disabilities. This doesn't apply to them. They will get the help they need. But for those of you who don't, now is the time to start getting better. So these reflections, you thinking and writing, are really important. And in those reflections 3, 4, and 5, they will all be written, but they're going to be instead of 350 to 400, instead of 325 to 350, they will be 425 to 450. They're going to be longer, and there will be some research involved. So I want you to be ready for that. That's why they're worth 15% instead of 12.5. So I'm going to stop and make sure that everybody understands this, because if you don't, then we're going to have a real war going in this class, you know, and you're going to be very angry, or you're going to be very confused, or you're going to be very afraid. And when we are afraid, when we humans are afraid, that tends to be when we have wars. Or, as it's often been said, War is what happens when language fails. War is what happens when we can't talk to each other anymore. That's a cliche, but there's a lot of truth in it. Let's stop. Does everybody understand? Hassan, are you look like you might have a question about it. Is it clear now about what's coming? You sure? Yeah. Okay. It's great. I always like to see you here, ready to talk, and I'm getting used to seeing Hassan in this corner here. Juanita, anything you'd like to say? It's pretty good. All right. Jay, what did I just talk about? Turn on the mic and go for it. What did I just say? I want to make sure you understand because I care about your education. Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
you were just basically saying it's important to be able to know how to write in this world that we live in, the times that we're in, because everything is really online, and you have to kind of express yourself
Okay. Tell me
online and know how to
concretely now.
write.
And if I get too rough on you, it's only because I'm trying to help, and you just tell me to stop, push to pull back. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
we're gonna talk. So tell me what we just talked about.
Like from the marks or what?
Read what Juanita just wrote. Juanita just took the time to write on the board what I said,
Yeah.
and this pertains to you. So let's hear it. What is it?
Okay. Our assignments are, I guess, 15% now. Our reflections, and then the sixth one is the assignment, and yeah, that's pretty much all you said. And then you went into writing, talk about writing. I heard all that about all those
Is it
assignments.
fair for me to
reflection
say that
assignments.
he's just not on top of it?
Maybe
Yeah.
just a little, but
Okay.
it's important.
Yeah, it is. Okay. I'm going to say this right now. I'm going to move on because I don't want to waste my time with this right now. You're kind of wasting my time.
Mm.
We've got a lot of important things to talk about right now. And your future matters to me. Things are messed up in the world right now. We are in existential times,
Mhm.
existential crises. We have two big wars that are happening in the world, and they affect all of us.
Yeah.
Plus, there's your own life and your own marks. So stay with us, okay? Stay with
No,
it
I am.
because I'd like to hear what you have to say too.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. Hassan, you're good. Anybody online? I don't see any comments there. So Anna's on her way, but let's start with a bit of orientation. And I'd like you all to focus on the map of the world. And for all of you who are watching online, synchronously or asynchronously, the map is right here. I know you can see it. The camera's close. So I can actually share the map right now, but it might take me too much stick handling. So if you're having trouble seeing anything, just let us know in the live chat. Okay. So we have this thing called planet Earth that we live on. And to sort of cut a long story short, if we're in the global leader class to sort of learn how to think like astronauts, which is to be able to look back on the planet and understand how to think of the whole planet and understand what's happening down there on the planet with the human race. That's what we're talking about now, the human race. Then we need to understand this thing called civilization. You see, down here on planet Earth, in the last 10,000 years, which is a drop in the bucket compared to what's been happening on this planet over 4 billion years, humans have created this thing called civilization. In other words, they have come out of the wild and they've built cities. We often call that coming out of the wilderness into the metropolis. And these cities have grown to the point where in just 10,000 years, we've gone from just a few million foraging hunters and gatherers on different parts of the planet and rivers to about 8 billion human beings spread all across the planet. And the question is, for all that we have progressed, for all that we think we have learned, what do we really know? What have we really learned? Because we have a problem right now. If you look at the map of the world and you orient yourself around the Mediterranean Sea, you'll start to understand something about what we call the cradle of civilization, which is largely around that area in the world. And I want to talk about this area because wars have broken out there again. They weren't supposed to, but they have. And so let's kind of orient ourselves and understand that when we look at the whole planet, we are looking at the Americas, which is the American continents, or all of the Americas, North, Central, and South America, and that's sort of the Western Hemisphere. And then the Eastern Hemisphere is everything east of the Atlantic Ocean, and that is what we call Afro-Eurasia. It's these two great land masses in the world. That's what we call continents, land masses. And we can break it down to the Western Hemisphere and the Eastern Hemisphere. Well, in terms of where civilization began, where humans began to really accelerate the process of development on this planet, it started to happen largely around the Mediterranean Sea. And the Mediterranean Sea, if you look at that, you will see at the northern sort of eastern part of Africa, you see Egypt. Egypt, the great ancient civilization of Egypt. But just north of there is the eastern part of the Mediterranean Sea, and we call that the Holy Land. The Holy Land. Can you make another slide for us, please, Juanita? Because right now, we have a war that's broken out again in the Holy Land. And wars have been going on there since the beginning of civilization. But the wars now that are going on there are more destructive and more terrible for the human race than ever in history. And that's because we're living in an age where the weapons are very powerful, where we have weapons of mass destruction. We have all sorts of other weapons that can cause greater damage much faster. So we have a war in the Holy Land. If you go north a little bit, you'll see a huge country. It's the biggest country in the world, geographically, land size. That's called Russia. A war has broken out between Russia and a smaller country that sits on its edge called Ukraine. Why have these two wars broken out? And exactly what can we do about this situation where we find ourselves in a world where we have created this connected civilization that brings together people from all over the world, and yet instead of peace, we seem to be having more conflict. Why is this? Well, does anyone want to try and answer that right now before I begin to explain a little bit more about it as factually as I can, as clearly as I can, not the what, but the why? Go ahead, Hassan.
As for Russia and Ukraine,
Yes.
as I heard and read about that Russia wants Ukraine land, and they want to occupy Ukrainian land. So that's why that war is begin. Second thing I heard that Ukraine wants to join NATO, but Russia didn't want that. So I think that's why Russia wants to invade Ukraine. so that Ukraine can't join NATO. Is that?
And NATO is, it's called the North Atlantic Treaty Organization,
Yeah.
and it is an organization that represents many other countries, including Canada, the United States, England, France, Germany, Turkey, countries that we call democracies. And so when we try to understand the war happening there right now, it is important to understand what NATO is. Come on in, Anna. Great. Come grab a seat here, okay? And she's going to join us shortly. Take a seat in the high chair, and excellent. And so let me just spend a few more minutes setting this up, and then we're going to bring Anna in to explain more about what she's done about the war in Ukraine. And then I'm going to, as best I can, weave in my insights on the war in the Holy Land. And by the end of today's class, I want to be able to help you to understand something about why these two wars have broken out at a time in history when it seemed like we were so advanced, that human civilization had come far in creating more comfort, more freedom, more education, more longevity, more medical science, more good things for humanity. Why is it that now we seem to be going backwards? And what can you do about it? Okay, so in terms of understanding the war in Ukraine right now, Hassan has made a good point. He has mentioned that Russia invaded Ukraine because Russia, at least as their president declared, Vladimir Putin, this was the official reason he gave. We always have to be skeptical of anything that a leader of a country says in wartime, because it may not be the truth. It may be propaganda. We have to be careful. However, this is one reason that he has given, which is that the countries of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, he felt, were beginning to get too close and to Russia and taking over, or at least beginning to expect that countries around Russia, particularly Ukraine, should become members of NATO. And he was resisting that because he said that Russia has a different identity than those countries. We'll see. What happened was, and here's a fact, and then we'll bring Anna up and we can show pictures later, okay? We'll just get talking about this. I want all of you to meet Anna and understand something about action. Do you remember the story I told about her a few weeks ago, before she was going to come and then she couldn't come, and then we had to make arrangements about the flag at her apartment? Let me remind you all of this story, and then I'll let Anna retell it, okay? And then you will start to understand something about why she is a global leader. Not a global leader as in the president of a country or of a big organization, or a new tech entrepreneur who started this huge initiative. Those are not the leaders that matter in this class. The ones that matter are the younger people, are the emerging leaders, the ones like you who are learning how to develop the skills so you can make an impact in the future. Because what matters now is the next generation. So I said to you, well, Anna, in February of 2022, as a Ukrainian Canadian, was very concerned about this invasion of her ancestral homeland. And she wasn't sure what to do. But she knew she had to do something. And then her landlord said to her that he wasn't sure she would let her put up a flag of Ukraine in her window in downtown Toronto. I'll stop there, okay? I'm going to let her continue the story. Anna's going to come up and we're going to explore with her her path to action. Why she chose to do something about an event that was happening elsewhere in the world and yet was connected to her. This is what I mean about you being local. We are global and local now, all at the same time. She was reacting to something that happened in another country, but her family is from there, but she's here. What should I do? I know I have to do something. And then gradually it grew into, with her sister, Global Guardian, an organization that began to provide medical supplies and emergency relief to people who've been injured in war. So I'm going to stop and make sure everybody understands where we're going, and then any questions here in the live chat? We're looking good. I don't see anything there. So let's get a microphone right now for, is it okay, Hassan? And I would like to introduce you to Anastasia Pioro, or Anna, and she and her sister have been really wonderful partners whom I've learned a lot from in terms of the energy that it takes to get involved. And hopefully, as you hear her story, and if we have time, we can look at some pictures of the work that they were doing, she and her sister, when they went to Ukraine, not just to help get the supplies there, but to bring computers to a place where young orphans, children who've lost their parents in war, are living, and got them connected so they could continue their education. Her path to action. And let's hopefully see if you can see a bit of yourself in this and what you would do if something happens and you feel you need to act. Will you act? So Anna, welcome to the class. You know, the microphone, you're used to that, right?
Thanks, Lon.
Yeah, okay. Nice. I see your hair's a different color.
My hair's
That's
a
good.
different color,
Yeah.
and I'm engaged.
Congratulations.
Just a few days, yeah.
Just a few days.
Yeah, just a few days, yeah. So I'm in my love bubble. I'm floating
Oh,
somewhere.
she's floating. This is, I love these moments. We're talking about war, and our guest comes in, and immediately we're talking about love bubble. So this is reality too. Hopefully, we can bring the class back to that. So that's great.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
so my partner is actually, he's half Ukrainian and he's half Jewish, and he's been here for 5 years, and his entire family is in Ukraine. He's here by himself. The other half is actually in Israel. So when the war with Israel and Palestine broke out, it was like an entire mental health breakdown again all over that we felt like 2-3 years ago when the war in Ukraine started. So my heart is really hurting again for both sides. It's like a very difficult, it's like reliving like fear and everything all over again. But it's nice. It was nice to have something beautiful happen during a very difficult time for him. So
Yeah.
just like you said, like, yeah, like love bubble. And it was like, oh wow, this is a nice moment, nice touch to something that is very tragic in the entire world. And yeah, but
There's a lot to talk about. And well, what do you think we should be? First of all, we can take this conversation wherever you want to take it. All of you, okay? So I can skate this way, I can skate that way. My skates are sharp. The ice has been flooded. Okay? So we can. I think it's important that you understand her path to action, but maybe not for now. You know, there's a lot here, and so let me just check in first with Anna and see, and I'll watch the live chat, okay? And Juanita, if you need to, I can go and take some notes, so you can come if you want to be part of the conversation more, because she's got a lot to say about life in Nigeria, and she's got very insightful. So let me just see in the live chat Good. I see a comment from Ajoy in Dhaka and Bangladesh.
Is this
Uh,
Ajoy from that I remember?
Yes.
Oh, hi, Ajoy. It's nice to see you again.
My heart like a broken highway. Same here, Anna, you know, or
Yeah.
my heart like a broken.
No, truly, my heart is really breaking right now.
Yeah.
I agree with what Lon said. I really do feel that we are so going back like 6 generations. I do not understand why this is happening, and this is not just happening with what's going on with Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Palestine, like even like China wanting to invade Taiwan. Like this is just like really scary that if this is where we're going, like 5 years from now, I don't even want to honestly think what could be happening. And like I guess we could say we are safe on the west side of the world, you know, being in Canada and America, but like it's, you know, anything can really happen at this point at the rate that we are going at, you know. So yeah. Yeah.
Well, this is excellent. And so let me just check in with the in-person group here, Hassan, Juanita, and Jay as well, to make sure we're taking this in the right direction, and then I will help guide this. But thankfully, Anna's here, and she's got so much to help us understand about being a young person. I'm not young. I'm going to be 61 this month. I can bring a lot of understanding and experience and wisdom, but ultimately, you're the ones over the next decades who are going to have to move forwards in this world, as Anna has said, and be able to deal with it, with the conflicts in it. So are we on the right topic right now and with Anna in understanding her path to action, or would you like to know something else at this point? Hassan? Her story? Yeah. Okay. And how she got involved and what she did, and Jay? Yeah. Okay. So why don't you take us back then to, February 2022 and what was happening?
Okay. I could even go back a little sooner. So I'm not a political person. I've never been interested in politics. Like I'll care. Like I don't want to say I've never been interested. Like I'll, the basic stuff that I feel like most of us, like I'm 27, which most of I'm guessing you guys are roughly around in the same age group as me and everyone that's around there. You're shaking, you're like, no.
You're 20.
Like you're not that far. It's only 3 years. It's not that you're making it sound like you're 10 years older. No, no, no.
Wiser. Okay.
You're still in our bubble. You're still in our bubble too, guys. Don't worry.
Okay, good.
But do you know what I mean? Like the age gap of like you're 19, 20 up until you're,
Yeah. Okay.
like I personally was like, sure, when like elections were happening, I'd watch when, Hillary Clinton and Trump were doing it. I'd, read here and there, but I wasn't legitimately involved in this in world politics as like people who are in political science and whatnot. Originally, Russia actually invaded Ukraine back in 2014. Into a region called Donbass. So it's very close on the east side. It is like right on the border. And that area got occupied really badly. And then not only that, they occupied Crimea, which now Crimea is actually Russian territory because during that time in 2014, a bunch of the soldiers would come into the house. They did they called it an election, but it wasn't an election. Like you have soldiers walking into a house, gun to your head. Choose. Do you want to be Ukrainian or Russian? What do you think you're going to choose? You're obviously going to choose Russian, or otherwise your brains are going to get blown out, literally. Right? So they called it on the news like, oh, look, Crimea wanted to be Russian. But I'm like, I know people from Crimea, and they're like, we didn't want this, but it's either we die or we choose to be Russian. And now they have Russian passports. So this war, truthfully, started way before what is going on right now, in February, that when this all went down. It started in 2014. There's a movie actually on Netflix if you're curious to watch it. It's called Winter on Fire: Ukraine's Fight for Freedom. And it's about that invasion of 2014. And it was this Ukrainian journalist. He literally videotaped everything on his phone because the Republic got so upset and so like this is wrong. And so there was like a big fight in Kiev Central, like right in the center of everything. And it's an interesting movie to watch all of this and how people are fighting for their freedom. Because at that time, our president was actually a president that was appointed from Russia, and he was a criminal. So we've never actually had good presidents. They've all been handed down to us by Russia, and they've been paid off by Russia. So this is like a fight of like 100+ years. The president now is Ukrainian. His name is Zelensky. So he's actually the first time after this went down in 2014, our people actually voted for him, which is also extremely progressive for Ukraine because I'm not going to lie, like Ukraine can be quite anti-Semitic. And I know this based on my partner who's half Jewish. Like he's faced a lot of anti-Semitism his entire life living in Ukraine. Not as much now, which was huge when this Ukrainian president got chosen. Like even my family who lives here, my parents are like, this is very progressive. Like when they were growing up in Kiev, they were taught that Jewish people were not good people because there was a lot of anti-Semitism back then as well. So like I hate against Jewish people.
Question.
Yeah.
This is a very, very good question. And please feel free to ask the basic questions that you need to understand. And let's just be very clear. Anti-Semitism is bigotry. So it's very deep in the human story. It's a hatred of the Jew, of a Jewish person. Now, why that is so introduces a very big discussion. But for now, let's just leave it at that. It could be anti-Black, it could be anti-Nigerian, anti-woman, anti-anything. It's Islamophobic, but it goes back deep in history, and it has a lot to do with religion. Okay, so but I will say one thing to help you to understand. In this world right now, in terms of numbers of Jewish people, there are about 15 to 18 million Jews in the world. Very small. And that's why Jews often think of themselves as David and Goliath. The story of David and Goliath, David was a Jew fighting against the oppressor because we've been small in number. But I'll leave that. A lot of people feel that way about their own races or cultures, that they're small. But we do too. Okay, so anyways, continue to tell us, but there's one thing that's important about the 1990s with Ukraine. Ukrainians actually had a referendum or it was a referendum in the early 1990s to choose whether they wanted to be separate from Russia and have their own independent nation or not for the first time in their history. And they overwhelmingly chose to have their own sovereign nation that was not part of the Soviet or Russian system. So this goes back even further in terms of their history.
It's true. So the reason why my action plan started was my parents left. We were part of Soviet Union, which means that we were run by Russia, which is why I actually, growing up, I'm first generation born here. My parents were born in Kiev, and so was my older sister. They moved here when Soviet Union fell apart, which was like 91, 92. The interesting part is my parents both know Russian and Ukrainian, but at that time, everybody had to know Russian. Everything was in Russian. Every song, every store, every name, everything was in Russian. So when my parents moved to Canada, they were like beat in their head so much that you love Russia, you love Russian, that I actually don't know Ukrainian. I only know Russian. And I dealt with this my entire life as a child where I would speak on the phone with my mom and some kid comes up being like, oh, you speak a different language. What is it? And I'd say it's Russian. And they go, oh, so you're Russian. And I say, no, I'm Ukrainian. And they're like, so why are you speaking Russian if you're Ukrainian? And me, 6-year-old is like, yeah, you're right. Why am I speaking Russian if I'm Ukrainian? And my mom couldn't, like, she could explain it because she'd be like, well, the Soviet Union, blah, blah, blah. But for some odd reason, my whole entire family, my dad's and my mom's side, couldn't switch over to the language, to Ukrainian, even though everybody knows it perfectly. And it wasn't until this war, and I think because when the 2014 war happened, I was still in high school. So I still wasn't as like conscious of what truly was going on. And then when this war happened, something inside of me like awoke, like this inner, like, I don't even know, like my inner Ukrainian, I like awoke, I guess. I actually started taking Ukrainian lessons. I've been learning Ukrainian for a whole year now. I can speak like 50% of it. I'm really slowly trying to not speak Russian because I'm not Russian. There's no need for me to speak that language. And this is something that half of the country actually still deals with because my partner's family is from the east side, very close to the Russian border, and they're still there. And when I went to go visit them right before the war, the whole entire family speaks Russian because they're right next to Russia. Like it makes sense. But then the minute you cross to the west side, you're in Lviv, it is only Ukrainian. And it is so like divided. When I was there with my mom and my sister delivering our humanitarian aid during the war, my mom, this is before I started learning Ukrainian, she looked at me and she like looked into my soul and was like, "You do not say a word in Russian.
Mm.
Pretend you only speak English and you don't understand anything. Got it? Like that's it." Because now West Side and East Side are fighting because now they're like, well, no, we're Ukrainian. We need to get our culture back. Like, why is half the country speaking Russian? It makes no sense. Like, we need to speak Ukrainian. Now the curriculums, everything changed. Like my partner's two younger siblings, they only learn Ukrainian in school. Everything's in Ukrainian. My partner's brother, he's 18. He's in university right now. Everything's in Ukrainian. It's tough because he spent his entire life learning everything in Russian, and now all of a sudden he's learning science in Ukrainian. So he's having a hard time, and that's understandable. But it's like a massive internal war. So I
Massive internal war.
it is. It's not
Well,
just an
remember I said war is
external.
internal as well as external. Okay. Yeah.
And it's going to be an internal war for a while now because like my partner's parents are in their like 50s and his dad who's Jewish, a lot of these schools because he went to a Jewish school, a lot of them were funded by Russians. So that's why he only knows Russian. His mom knows half Ukrainian and Russian, but he only knows Russian. So for him, it's really difficult to now at the age of 50 to just pick up and start learning a new language. It's not easy. And so a lot of people are like, no, but you have to. And I'm like, look, guys, I'm 27 and I'm having an extremely difficult time learning Ukrainian. Like you think it would be easy because you know Russian. Not at all. Like I'm so confused and my job placement isn't even the way it should be. Like it's a whole like other ball game. So I can only imagine someone who's in their 50s who spoke another language for 50 plus years is now having to learn Ukrainian. Like that's a lot. That's a lot. Especially you have bombs flying over your head and everything else and you're trying to run your business and blah blah blah. Like it's a lot. But with my plan of action when this whole war started, I think for me, I couldn't understand. I'm trying to, okay, so
I've written.
I would hear
Who am I?
literally.
Who
it was
am
kind
I?
of
Okay.
Who am I moment.
Yeah. Go on. Yeah.
When I would hear about, and I find that this is happening right now, like unless it's happening to your country, you're never going to understand what's it like to live like this, like to have huge, oh my God, guilt survivor. Is that what guilt survivor? I think it's called that you're living here, but you have family back there. Even if you don't have family back there, you're just hurting for your people, like all of it. I could sympathize with people in other countries who are going through it, but I never understood it until this happened to Ukraine. And then I was like, oh my God, like I really sympathize with many other countries who's gone through this kind of stuff because it's you can't explain it. And so when this happened, I felt this like huge abundance of of like a lot of sorrow. And so this is where I wanted to start doing something because I'm like, how can I help and what can I do as a Ukrainian Canadian who's born here? Like, what is my way of helping it? And this is where I met Lon, and Lon came into the picture. And originally, this started with my sister. Actually, went to Ukraine first with her partner, who's Native American. So he is like doesn't know anything about Ukrainian language, Ukrainian culture. Only learns what he gets from us. And we went there, and they went there and I got them to connect. I was in one of Lon's classes. We got them to connect because one thing that my sister realized when she was there is that our soldiers are really not equipped for this kind of stuff. The other thing is that Russia was going against a lot of war war laws. I think that's what it's called. So they're called white phosphorus bombs, which are actually against the law. You're not allowed to be throwing those since World War II, I believe. So they're throwing them and it's weird. They look very pretty from the sky. They look like beautiful fireworks falling. They actually like burn you to the core instantly. And they're against like anti-war crimes, but they're using this constantly because they get a bigger radius of hitting everything and destroying everything from people to buildings. Like it just melts it all away essentially. And so when she was there, she realized that most of our soldiers that were dying were not even dying from the actual bomb or like a shrapnel or whatever. They're actually bleeding out. That's like the number one cause. And that's the number one cause when there was a war in, was it Iraq she was talking about, I think?
I believe she was. Yes.
Iraq,
Yeah.
back like 20 years ago, the reason why a lot of soldiers were dying is because they were bleeding out. They didn't have enough tourniquets, chest seal gauze, like that kind of stuff, because you bleed out within like a minute and you're done. That's it. So we started thinking like we need tourniquets is the number one thing that soldiers need. Like that's what really saves lives because it's either you lose your arm because the tourniquet is too tight on, keeping you from losing your blood, or you just die right there on the spot. And I think losing a limb is a much more important than fully losing your life.
You know what
So
I'm going to share this. I'm going to share this page so it's a full screen for the online students in the recording, and just read a little bit from this page so you get a little bit more information on what specifically Global Guardian has done in saving people's lives. And then think about any questions you might have for Anna in terms of what sorts of challenges she might have faced, and whether this is something that you could see yourself doing in some part of the world or even in your community, in getting involved in something to make a difference. But let me just share this for a second, okay? And then I can hold on. It's right here. Okay, so and I'll make this full screen here. So read this for a second, okay? This is what the Global Guardian has done. Anna and her sister and others have done specifically in helping our impact. We have confirmation from medical professionals of 8 lives saved with our medical supplies. Our supplies are meant for immediate first aid to stop death from bleeding out within the first 3 to 5 minutes after being wounded. We have permission to use a few of the survivor stories publicly. Unfortunately, we will never know all the people saved with our supplies, but it is encouraging to at least have a proof of a few. Here's one.
So this guy was his story is really beautiful actually. He's doing actually really well now. He's a soldier. He was trapped for 2 months underground because of a bombing. And specifically our tourniquet, he like strapped it onto himself and our tourniquet saved his life. So it's like beautiful to hear these things that legitimately that this was, and this is when he was just made it to the hospital. So you can tell he's very malnourished. Like he is extremely skinny because he had no water, no food for 2 months. So
He was trapped underground due to shelling. This would be missiles coming in constantly into his community for 2 months, and he had little food and very little clean water, and he was surviving in this while he was also dealing with the threat of being killed at any moment from the missiles. But then he was wounded eventually, and it was through the supplies that they provided or we provided that he was able to get to the hospital quickly. He didn't bleed to death. That's what we do, is we provide the bandages and the tourniquets to stop the bleeding so they can be taken to a hospital or for any place to get proper treatment. So that was, and then we have more stories here of people who were wounded and who were also saved. Now, here's the thing I wanted the students to just understand a little bit. Let me just exit this for a second, and we'll come back. Is this idea that you wanted to do something, and so when you decided to act and actually get involved in this organization, how did you feel as a person, as a human?
To be honest, I didn't feel enough, even though whatever I was doing, part of me wanted to like ship even my mom and my dad. My dad's actually a professor here at the university at UIT. He's a professor of nuclear engineering, the most Ukrainian thing you could possibly be teaching. So very, very typical. But my dad's a professor here.
Yeah.
And I remember when it went down, and my dad's very smart when it comes to like he knows how to build, and I don't know how to say all that, like not bombs, but like, you know, yeah, thank you. Like technology that could, assist. I don't know how to properly say that. Like nuclear bomb or whatever, but
fission
yes,
or
like Molotov cocktails or whatever they're
Okay,
called, like that kind
okay.
of stuff. And my dad actually used to be in the army as well, and he was an amazing sniper. So my dad knows his stuff, and so when this all went down, my dad, who's in his 60s, was like, "Should I go? Like, do I go and do my sniping stuff?" And I'm like, my friend, you are 66. Like, don't know if you're going to really do well out there. You know, you're of age. Like, no offense, but I'm like, I think it's great that you want to do this, but I think you do more damage than you would actually help. But even my mom was like, I want to go there. I want to help the soldiers. Like, I want to be a nurse, like this. And like, my parents were ready to pack their bags. And even though what we were doing, it felt obviously amazing because we're trying to do the least we can do with what we have. We're not big political people. We're not famous.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm an actor and I'm also a YouTuber. So yeah, I have a platform. But even then, my platform was never meant about politics. It's about self-love and acting. So when I started talking about Ukraine, you know, I talked about it in a way where it's like, I'm talking about this because this is my way to release what I'm feeling, but I'm not here to preach about it because I know that this is not why people are here on my channel and on my platform to see things,
Yeah.
you know? But it felt good, obviously, but it really did not feel enough. Like you hear the amount of people that are dying and what after that, a few months after that started happening with Bucha and how these soldiers were coming in and just like ripping people out of their homes. And now there's this thing called in Russia, right on the border, it's called the filtration camp. It's like a new version of a concentration camp. There's probably over 8,000 children in these filtration camps. And there's a photo that just leaked of them
Ukrainians.
holding a Russian flag, being told that they love Russia. So, you know,
Let's try and understand this a bit in terms of your lives and what you've experienced or what you've been exposed to see how this might resonate with you in her story. So Juanita, as you listen to her, you come from a different part of the world, but you've talked about conflict in Nigeria, but yet you're here now. Do you find yourself identifying in any way with the things that Anna has talked about in terms of wanting to do more for her people or becoming more aware of her culture because of this conflict, and that has helped her to understand her identity more? Or is there anything else that somehow this connects with?
Well, I do admire like your passion because I can feel it from all the way here. Like her talking about Ukraine, like
Yeah.
I can feel everything she's feeling. So my attention is here like fully. And well, I did grow up in Nigeria because she said you grew up here. So I even like I don't have like an identity issue because I grew up in Nigeria. I recently just came here. And honestly, I'm I can't even imagine how scary it is, especially when you had to go there and see these things. Because, okay, maybe like if this was happening in Nigeria, he's Nigerian as well. If this was happening in Nigeria, I can't even imagine like because they're two different cultures, definitely our reaction would be much different. And I feel it would even be much more violent than it is in Ukraine. And I just that would be insane. That would be, and like you said, you never really, when you heard about it going on other countries, you didn't really understand. But now that it's happening to your country, it's like, wow. So I can't even imagine happening to my country because that's total destruction for my country. And while there's like little spring ups of like different types of conflict, which I hope doesn't escalate to that point, honestly, I'm grateful. I am like for what Nigeria is now. We have our problems, don't get me wrong, but I'm super grateful hearing you right now. I wish so bad that Nigerians were also this passionate, because I'm telling you, you would meet a lot of Nigerians and they would not even like we have this thing, they would not even want to identify as Nigerians, or they'd insult the country or all of that. They're saying, oh, our leaders are bad, infrastructure is bad, like people are suffering in poverty. I'm like, but we have peace. Like there are lots of unpatriotic, I don't know if that's the right word, but Nigerians that aren't patriotic. And it's really sad. Like I wish there were more people like you in Nigeria, because I bet you that a lot of the issues we're having now, we wouldn't have it in general. And wow, like
I hear you. I think
Got your pictures, by the way, so we can go to them whenever.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay?
I hear you with that because I think even like I said, honestly, before this war, like I was just kind of like, okay, well, whatever. I hear about war in other countries. I'm like, man, that really sucks. But that's all I can say because I don't know what's it like I actually have family in Ukraine. I have my aunt and my uncle and my cousin, and they're in Kiev. They get bombed quite a lot. And then my partner's family, who's in, it's called Dnipro. It's right on the east side. They get it probably even worse. I could never understand, what that pain is until I felt it. And I hear you, like, I wasn't really passionate until it happened to me. And I was like, whoa, wake up, girl. Like, do you realize what the hell is going on right now? My favorite thing is, this is the last thing I wanted to say about like us and our generation and our age group is, I understand. Listen, like financially, finances are hard. You may not have money to donate. You may not have money to buy tourniquets. That's fine. But one thing that I noticed when this was going on is the amount of propaganda that people were putting out on social media, because we live in the world of social media, was so wrong. And they were not listening to what the right sites were and then producing it and being like, but I heard about this and this. And I heard Russia says that Ukrainian are Nazis and I'm like, guys, our president is Jewish. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what Nazis exist here.
It's remarkable fact to another fact, which is in a country that has had a history of anti-Semitism, which is a hatred of a particular person, a particular culture. When they elected their current president, they elected a Jewish man, Zelensky, and he has turned out to be a remarkable figure in the world in having the courage to put together, to bring together the country to resist the Russian invasion. The Americans actually said to him when Russia invaded, "You cannot fight this. We will give you safe passage out." And he refused. He said, "I'm going to stay here and I'm going to fight this and I'm going to galvanize the people." And now here we are over a year after the invasion. It was in February of 2022, and Russia is not winning the war. Ukraine has been very steadfast, very courageous in what they've
We started a
done. So,
counteroffense,
it's a really
which is pretty big
remarkable
for us.
story. But I put up there, "Wake up, girl," because this is something that happened to you, which is wake up to what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
I can do something. I'm going to do something about it.
My favorite is for me when I would talk to people about this, and people who are like, we're all from different countries, literally just the four of us. And my favorite people are like, yeah, but can't you just give up half your land? Let's take a look at Russia. And then please take a look at, I don't even know if you can see it, Ukraine. Like, this entire biggest country of the world is fighting teeny tiny little Ukraine, which, by the way, they already have our land, which is Crimea. We didn't give it. They just took it. And now they have Donetsk and Luhansk, which they're starting that election poll again, which they said 90% of Ukrainians voted to be Russian. They didn't vote. They're being forced to vote. So my favorite is, I'm like, where are we going to, like, people don't understand that what Russia's doing here isn't this isn't a peaceful war. He has already declared that he wants Soviet Union again, after he gets Ukraine, he's going to go to Belarus, because Belarus's president is already heavily funded by Russia. Without the funds of Russia, Belarus does not stand on its own. Then he's going to go to Poland, Romania, Moldova, Kazakhstan, even in Georgia, what's going on right now with Russia and Georgia and how he's trying to take over Georgia. Like, this isn't just about Ukraine. Like, as long as the fight stays on this side of the world, we in Canada and America, we're going to be fine. But the minute it starts spreading, every other country, like China, they're going to go to Taiwan. Why? Because China saw how Russia did so well. Well, why can't we do the same thing? And it's just going to be a trickle effect to everything else all the way down, And I think that's why people, unless you're Ukrainian, you're not going to understand, like, this isn't just Russia-Ukraine war. Like, literally, Ukraine is trying to show to people, you cannot let another country run your territory, because then other countries are going to either be occupied by Russia or by another country that has been dreaming of occupying that country. It's going to start a full-on World War III.
Well, Professor.
Why don't you take us through the slides, because I've got them up here. I want to make sure you have a chance. We only have about 15. Are you okay to stay till 11:45?
Yeah, totally fine. Yeah.
Because
Well, Professor.
I want to make sure you have a chance to show specifically what you did, because there's so
Hello.
much we can talk about in a class like this when we are dealing with war in the world.
Hello.
Ultimately, this is your education. This is a classroom, and this is supposed to help you open yourselves to an
Hello.
understanding of how you can be a better person in this world, what you can be doing to make a difference. That's leadership. Leadership is action. And so it's very important that as we go through this, that we remain focused on specifically what she did, what she learned, and as you watch this, think about, well, what could you be doing? Are you doing enough for something? Or is everything that you do in your life just about you? And that's all that you do in the course of a day? Is it, did
Hey,
you go
Professor.
through the day thinking about what you need, what you do, and all that matters? Or are you actually
Hello.
opening yourself to what's happening in the bigger world? Have you woken up, as she has, to what's going on elsewhere and what you can do about it? Okay.
I just wanted
So,
to say
yeah.
one quick thing of what you said about that. I saw this whole social media outburst happen again when the war with Israel and Palestine broke out, because the amount of people that I would see that would be like, oh, yeah, Bella Hadid went and posted this. I'm going to repost what Bella Hadid reposted. I'm like, you need to do your research about these kinds of things. Like, people's lives are dying in both countries. This isn't funny, you know? And the same thing with the war in Ukraine and Russia. People didn't even know that Russia invaded us back in 2014. To be honest, this probably has been going on longer than that because we've been occupied by Soviet Union. But people don't know that. So people like look at it and be like, oh, I'm going to repost this. Same thing's going on right now with Israel and Palestine. And it breaks my heart that so much misinformation is going out about the whole situation that I'm like whenever any sort of conflict is happening in another country, you have to do your research on both sides. You have to understand what is going on before like you start posting, because social media is so powerful. Once it's out there, once you put it, that's it.
It's there.
It's done, you know?
Hey, Professor.
People are going to remember that. And you're
Hello.
boosting the wrong, you're like going to be helping the propaganda, which is not what you want to be doing.
I wanted
know?
to add
Hello.
a thought about that to help you to understand something
Hello.
as we transition to this. It's been said recently that today, among many younger people and even not so young, people who are online a lot,
Hey, Professor.
that they think being exposed to things online is enough. That knowing about what's happening because you saw a social media post, you watched television, or you saw a movie is enough experience in life to give you the ability to decide on something.
Hello,
That's
Professor.
scary, because that means you're not making decisions based on firsthand knowledge, seeing it for yourself. And what you
Yes.
did, you and your sister did, is you went to Ukraine. You went there, you saw the situation. You know, Violetta told me many times about what she was seeing, and then there was a determination made
Hello.
based on what you knew to some extent already, but a lot of it was based on this is what you saw there, and you realize this is what people need. And this is very, very important for all of us in understanding how to deal with any very difficult situation in life. See it with your own eyes. Don't trust everything that you're seeing around you on social media. You've got to go and do your own research. And the best research
Hello.
is when you're there and you're seeing it as an eyewitness. So tell us a bit about what you did when you were there and some of the things you saw. And then we're heading towards the conclusion. We
Hello,
don't have
Professor.
much more time
Hello.
left. So please go ahead.
Hello.
So quickly, yeah, this was about exactly actually almost a year ago. In October of last year, my mom, my sister and I, and my sister's boyfriend went. My fiance now couldn't go because he is not a permanent resident here yet. And he is also military trained. So the minute he crossed the border, he was going to need to go to war and he wouldn't be allowed out of the country. So he could not unfortunately go with us. So he stayed back here with my dad. This is our house. This is like maybe not even half of what we've packaged up for this is literally, I'll try to show you,
Okay.
but you have,
You can do this if you want with the cursor. Come over here.
these are orange tourniquets, which actually we got in trouble for because orange is a flashy color. So if they're in a forest and a Russian soldier sees something flashy orange and they're lying on the floor, they'll go and kill them. So we actually got in trouble for that. They have to be black so you can't see. But the black were all sold out. We didn't think, because we're not military people, like you don't take orange. We took whatever we could, and we saw the orange one, so we took that. So half of them are orange, and then the other half, some of them you can see over there are black. So the yellow package is a chest seal gauze. So it's like super compressed. When you open it, you put powder in and you put it where you have a bullet wound, and it like sucks in all the blood, and it's like literally inside of your actual wound, and it stops the bleeding. It's extremely painful to do it, but that's the only way you're gonna live if it's close to your heart or even like your big arteries, whatever. The black packaging is it's a some type of compress. I forgot what it's called, but it's also another type of compress. There's gauze bandages there. It's like a whole actual medical kit because a lot of these soldiers didn't have a medical kit, period.
Mhm.
This is us in Ukraine. So, if you want to go just back up to the one, this is us in Ukraine. Some of them we had to ship. So this is actually sleeping bags because soldiers didn't have sleeping
Oh,
bags for
just
winter.
sleeping bags.
So we actually went to a military store in downtown Toronto. They're used. Some of them are from the like 1920s, but they're that good. We bought them. They're extremely expensive, and none of them had warm socks. And then you have warm socks in the other one. And this was shipped out right to the east side. I think it was like Brigade number 95, which is where the biggest shelling is happening right now for soldiers. This is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think, 5 or 6 sleeping bags. We couldn't get any more because it was like almost $5,000 just for those. And those are almost 80 years old. So you do the math, right? So yeah. This is in Ukraine. That's my sister, the blonde over there. The guy next to her on the left is actually my cousin who lives in Ukraine. He was our like transportation because we don't have it's tough because also during that time, still right now, there's a military curfew, especially where we were. 8 p.m. was the curfew. So if you're stuck outside, you're out for your own. Like if they start attacking, you're out your own, and no one's gonna try to save you because they can't risk that. Like you know the rules, and if you can't follow it, you can't follow it. So this is on the east part. So we were right in the middle of the shelling. There was bombs probably going off like every, I don't even know, hour. We were running in and out of a bomb shelter maybe like 100 times within 24 hours. It was quite intense.
You could have been hit.
Oh, at any point. But we had to pack. So we packed this is all our suitcases. We brought them all in suitcases, hockey bags, and those the side before the packed like green bags were the medical kits packed. And the next slide, this is us giving it out. Those are the soldiers right on the side there. They're taking it and they were going kind of on with their duty. These are the people that we had connections with. That's my sister. That's my cousin. We're doing the unpacking. This one, that I believe was in Irpin, which is don't think it's occupied anymore recently, but it was occupied for a very long time. Then the next slide.
Yep.
This is one of the soldiers that was saved using our tourniquet.
Yes, I see.
This gentleman, unfortunately, he was saved, but 3 months later he died.
Oh, which one?
The one right in the middle on the right.
Ah,
His face is also in protection because he was right in the middle. He was one of the first 3 that went when the counteroffensive started a few months ago, and he volunteered with 2 of his other friends. There's a risk when you go first that you're going to get hit probably the most. He did. He died instantly. So he's unfortunately not here.
oh, here's a good.
That is the gentleman that we saw over there. This gentleman, I believe, unfortunately, has also passed away.
He?
I believe he has. Yeah. He passed away actually, I think, not too long ago, from what we are told from our sources. I think he was one of the soldiers that was captured and was unfortunately tortured, and I don't think he survived, from what I understand. So it's kind of sad to hear that happening as well. This is us. So towards the end of the trip, we went to an orphanage. So these kids are from a city called Kharkov, which is like 10 kilometers away from the border of Russia. This entire orphanage took them and brought them into the mountains on the west part. And they're kept very secretly in these mountains because one thing that Russians were doing was they were trying to steal children because they're trying to bring them to these filtration camps. So any kids that were in orphanages were kept in a very remote, secret place. Us getting there, we had to get picked up from a location. We weren't allowed to film. Like nobody could know where we were going. We weren't allowed to say where we were going. anyways, some of these kids were already orphans prior to the war. Some of them are orphans because of the war. Either their parents have died or their parents are military, so they're in the war fighting. Some parents were taken to the filtration camps as well, so we don't even know if their parents are still alive or where they are or anything. This is Dasha, one of the orphanages. I actually am still in contact with her. I have her on Instagram. She's such a sweet girl. She loves to paint. So this is my mom right here. She painted a bunch of these beautiful photos, and we actually have some of them at home. She gave them to us. And the orphanage actually sent some of her photos to a New York contest for photos. So that happened as well. This is Fedya and Simeon. Simeon has dreamed of being a musician. So he got a guitar and he was learning. And I'm so in awe of these children because they understand what is going on. They're fully aware of what's happening. But the most incredible part is this kid was like, he's literally left-handed, but the guitar's meant for a left hand. And he was so determined to play that even with his left hand, he was determined to play it. And he dreams of being actually a baseball player. He wants to be the best baseball player in Ukraine because there's no baseball in Ukraine. So he's like, I want to do it. And
You help you've helped them to stay normal,
yeah, I
right?
think
You've helped them to stay at a time when it's mad. Yeah.
like the amount of dreams that these kids have, like it really broke. When I was leaving, I couldn't stop crying because I'm like, the reality is this is not ending in a year or 6 months. It's probably going to go on for another 2 to 3 years, you know? And the fact that these kids have dreams of becoming these great people, like it's really powerful to see this because like they're not allowing what's going on in their country to stop them. They want to still continue going. This was our last day with them. That's me in the middle. I literally just woke up because they were all going to school and they wanted to take a photo with me. So this is like
Oh, there you are. Yeah, I got it.
when we were leaving, there was about 60 of them, and there was about another 50 to 55 more being brought to the orphanage because they were found from different areas and they were being brought to this orphanage. So
Stop you for a sec because we're almost out of time, but I want to end with a very powerful thought for all of them to think about because they may choose to reflect on this, and we can always continue this another time. And I'd like to be able to address also what's been happening in Israel as well, but that will happen another time. But you said, "Wake up, girl," and I'd like everyone to hear, what did you wake up to?
are you asking me right now? Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
I looked at everybody, so I was like, yes.
Well, I want them to think about waking up to something that's important that they can lead on. So what did you wake up to?
In general, like this morning or
Oh, when you said "wake up, girl."
oh,
Yeah.
honestly, like to be honest, I think when I woke up to this, it was like an inner fight I had inside of me. Like I feel like my Ukrainian womanness, like I felt like a warrior. I was like ready to. When I honestly was in Ukraine, I was like, I'll fight. I'll do it. I don't know how to shoot a gun, but I'll pick one up. Like I was so ready to go. And the one thing that I really realized I wanted to mention in Ukraine was even here that I recommend for all of you, for whoever's dealing with a conflict, is to really hold space for them to just release what they're feeling. Because when we were in Ukraine, especially the women that were working at the orphanage, all they wanted to do was to tell us their story of what they're going through. And all you did was just you stood there. I stood for like, and I just listened. I didn't understand half of it because I don't speak Ukrainian, but they didn't care. They just needed someone to speak to, you know? So this is for everyone who's now going through a conflict in their country. Like the most you can do is just literally check in with them and hold a space for them to speak. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to understand. You just need to hold a safe space for them to be like, I need to cry. I need to release. I am so angry. I'm this, I'm that, I'm scared. And it's incredible how much people feel heard. And I find after this, I look at humanity so differently. I think people in this world just want to be enough and they just want to be heard. That's it. Even at a place of war, they just want to be heard. Here's my story. Please hear me. That's it.
Next week, we're actually going to have a guest talking about empathy, digital empathy, and we'll get to that next week. But the idea that you put yourself in somebody else's shoes and you just let them tell you what they're going through, and you can feel what they're feeling, connect with them. We often say that today you have a chance to be the most connected and most responsible and most empathetic generation. You have that chance now with technology, and God knows we need more empathy in the world now with so much conflict. And I think Anna has given us a good explanation of that. Finally, I just want to ask you all a question, just the three of you. It's a kind of a difficult question, but I want you to think about this. Hassan, do you think you have a bit of a warrior in you? Do you know what a warrior is? Because I see you wearing UFC shirts. So all these guys out there in the cage who are fighting, they call themselves sort of warriors, but that's entertainment. I'm talking about something deeper than the next cage fight. Let me give you the students watching the recording will hear this, okay? Go ahead, yeah. The warrior in you, okay?
There's a term called jihad. So people used to think in a wrong way,
Yes.
and like some bad folks used to say that jihad to kill someone, to bomb someone.
Yes.
The real meaning of jihad is to fight
Eternal.
your internal evil. The jihad means the best jihad means like you have to fight your own evil things inside your brain, inside your body, and to be a good person. That's the main jihad of a Muslim.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, so I just wanna make clear that word, like people think that's a bad word or some stereotype. Yeah.
That's real. That's a real warrior.
I
warrior
wanted
is-
to
is-
say
is- go- yes.
it's interesting how you talked about this word jihad. Is that how you say it?
Jihad. Yeah.
That's propaganda. The fact that it's been used the wrong way for how many years now? Like to be honest, I've never heard of that word, but I can guarantee you, I probably would have, if I heard it not from you, I could have heard it the wrong way. But that right there is propaganda because it was used the wrong way this entire time.
One more word, which is like literally everyone knows that Allah Akbar boom. That's also used Allah Akbar boom. Like people used to say like they used to blow themselves,
Yes.
suicide bombers, like
Yes.
they are using this word in a wrong way. Like as you Christians said, praise to Jesus Christ. Like Allah Akbar means praise to be Allah.
Yes.
Allah is the greatest. But as you said, that people used to like some bad folks are using this word in a wrong way to kill some innocent guys, and like we don't consider them as a Muslims who are using this word in a wrong way. Yeah, so I just want to make sure confirm that this word like clear that Allah Akbar is not a like a bad or terrorist word.
Yes.
It's a praising to your God. Yeah.
That's great. No, thank you for clarifying for that. Juanita, do you think you have a bit of a warrior in you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, after listening to her, like I think I've always had a warrior in me. I guess circumstances, like situations, need to bring it out of me. And honestly, all you have to do is put me in a place where we're talking about this type of thing, and then bring Nigeria into the situation. Like I'm about to,
Where you at? We need you in Ukraine here.
like how she said she went there and she went to pick up a gun. Me too. I'm going to pick up a gun, and I'm like, yeah, let's do something. Like let's put it in action. Like what are we? It's not just about we need to do better. The things need to be done. How are we getting it done? Because people don't like to. It's just the words. They don't want to put in the action behind it. So I'm all about the action. Like take me to where it's being done. Let me be a part of what is being done. And honestly, you've helped me. You've inspired me to be a bit more deliberate about me as a Nigerian and being patriotic and correcting certain mindsets that my fellow Nigerians have. I will try because I can do something. I will try. And I feel like it needs to start with us, that shift in mindset as Nigerians before it reflects in our country and our values and everything. So I will definitely try with the people that I have in my space right now.
Yeah.
Because I definitely have
I think that's important. Listen, I'm not not all Ukrainians are good. I'm gonna be honest. Like we even still have bad ones in Ukraine. We've met some that were the letter Z in Ukraine was being put out as it's like a a new Russian Nazi symbol. Some of these Ukrainians, they were paid off by Russians because for whatever reason they believed Russia was doing okay, and they were putting these Zeds up on buildings, and they were caught. And it was mind blowing to hear that your own people are ready to kill your own people. Like, it's insane. And there's a lot of cultural things that I don't agree with Ukraine. I don't. And as a new generation person, like when I met my partner now who's Ukrainian, I told him, I said, I will never date another Ukrainian man. Well, that did not work out as I planned. But I told him we had a lot of issues where I'm like, we have a lot of differences. The way you think is not, in my opinion, correct. It's a little bit old school. And dating me, he let go of a lot of these cultural differences. He's a Canadian man now. I'm pretty proud.
You're getting married. Now you're getting
And I'm getting married, but
You're getting
but it's
married.
true. Like I really admire what you said about now me. I'm going to, use my power of there's things that I don't agree with some things that Nigeria says and does, But yeah.
Way to go. Well, finally, Jay, I want to hear this, and then we're going to wrap this up. We're running a little late, but we need to at least all three here. And for the online students, we'll review this next week. Okay. But would you say you have a bit of a warrior in you?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah?
I would. I'm just really tired right now, honestly. But yeah, I
Tap
would.
into the warrior. Tap into the warrior right now and say, I'm not so tired. I'm going to answer this question. Okay.
Yeah.
What would you fight for? What would you fight for? And what would you be prepared to maybe even, but you don't have to say, but maybe even give your life for? Something bigger than you.
Well, it kind of seems like I already have, honestly. Like my parents, they have a lot of churches, I would say. Like we were just in Ireland a few weeks back at one of their churches, and it was like we're going around, we're buying stuff, and we're helping like people in that community as well. And it was like it was kind of sad in a way, and it was kind of like you're honestly just grateful for the life you live here. Because even when I go to Nigeria, um, we they help out a lot there as well. But like it's just sad, especially when you go to like my home village of like where like even my cousin I may not know is, or like it's sad to see the way they live, honestly.
And can you do anything?
We do, but it's like there's only so much you can do.
Sure.
It's just sad. But I think I try. That's like a battle with myself. That word is a good way
You've
to
got
say
your
it
internal
because
jihad. It's your jihad. And
yeah, it's
I'm
my
glad
jihad
he said what
because
he said, because it's a very important battle. We all have it. Okay. I'm going to say one final little thing. I'm going to bring it back to the 10 Commandments. Everybody knows, Jay, and thank you for giving a bit more of yourself, for understanding what we can all do. I think, is everyone familiar with the idea of the 10 Commandments?
that we're talking, I just like realized like thank God, because I'm looking at the thing now, and Ireland is well, it looks pretty close to where this war is happening. That's why I initially brought up Ireland.
Ireland, the uppercase of Ireland is out of proportion to the actual size of Ireland, which it's a small part of the English islands, and
Yeah.
there's Northern Ireland, and then that's part of England, and then there's the Republic of Ireland, but it's just at the edge of that peninsula there. But then if you go east, you will see you're starting to get into. Unfortunately, this map is not completely to scale.
Oh,
Okay, so it's a little bit further, Jay, than. Well, you make your point, but do you want to? Well, we'll take it up next week because I want to make sure I can get you guys out of here. But I want to say one final thing. It has been said by people who have suffered in the world in war on many sides. They said, we wish there were an 11th commandment. There are 10 commandments. Thou shalt not, commit this act, that act, and then thou shalt not be a bystander. Thou shalt not be a bystander. A bystander means you're standing by something that's happening around you and you're just watching. You're standing and you're not doing anything. So a leader or somebody who's emerging as a leader is not standing by. They're acting. So maybe we need to add that 11th commandment and things might change. Thank you very much again. And here, a little handshake for the, yeah, she's getting married. She's getting married. I mean, we're going to end the class today on that note of human connection and love. That is what matters in the end for everything. Okay, guys. See you next week. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Good. Okay. And make sure the reflection will be due. The reflection I'll be putting for the third reflection. It will be due November the 14th, and I'll be putting that on DC Connect. Okay. There will be an announcement for that, but just be aware it's coming November the 14th. Okay. Good. Thank you for the notes, Juanita. Yeah. Well, I'm really thrilled that you. What's your fiance's name again?